Are we ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to one of our first Hangouts of Overseas Volunteer for Better India. This is the first Hangout Europe is hosting. For those who have joined OVBI Hangout for the first time from Europe, for them, Overseas Volunteer for Better India was launched in May 2013, which is driven by a group of inspired NRIs who are ready to support initiatives in India and tackle issues that the Indian communities face outside of India, as well as help out issues within India. I'm Shobha Iyer, based in UK, and I'm quite passionate about helping India, and therefore I thought it would be excellent to start this initiative within Europe. We've already started our initiatives in UK, Netherlands, and Germany. This has been active since August, and we're slowly building up to various activities and so on. So the some of the activities we've actually done um, are some of the hangouts that you can see, the Forum of Global Leaders. So we have hosted several global OVBI hangouts, getting all the leaders with either Indian roots or from India to come and talk about the achievements, inspire people through their initiatives and support how we can support them, and the inspiring stories. The whole idea is to network with them and to find solutions to ongoing problems and how we can participate better. So either through events such as global hangouts or cultural events. We had something called Jagruti event, which was hosted in the US, in UK, Germany, and so on last year. We will continue to have lots of cultural events as we move forwards. Uh, the ongoing social initiative projects that OVBI is currently actively driving, they are things like adopting model villages. So what are the parameters that define how can we go about it? If anybody is interested in participating, please go to the website Overseas Volunteer for Better India to see what are the current initiatives. And if you would like to participate, please register yourself as a volunteer and talk to us about it. So some of the initiatives that you see here is you can adopt model villages. We've also started a school of good governance in India, which talks about policy making and emphasis on education for people who aspire to be politicians or want to basically be leaders in India. We also have Project Ujas, for which we have been collecting money for donating solar lamps to rural homes and so on. And similarly, we did voting applications through our technology initiatives, driven right from experts based in Bay Area working for Google and high-tech companies in the Bay Area. And we have Project Udan, which is basically a very successful project wherein we've managed to get we managed to get girls in high-risk areas from Calcutta brothels to give them a new life, school, and a new environment where they can start a beautiful life. And we continue to host several such initiatives, and we're very eager to hear from you. If you have an idea you want to share and you want to know how you can join hands or how we can help you to drive for causes that can better India. Again, India is firmly, as we all know, with 21st of June, International Yoga Day approaching, India is firmly establishing its spiritual legacy with UN officially celebrating the first ever International Yoga Day. And it gives me a great pleasure to get our very popular and endearing teacher, Shri Dinesh Kashikar from Art of Living, who's extremely well versed and deeply rooted in Vedic wisdom knowledge, teaching yoga, and to come on board and throw some light on this 5,000-year-old Vedic wisdom. Before I pass on to Shri Dinesh Kashikar, we would like to play a short video on history of yoga, and can we get started with a video, please? So it's we have Jitesh Vaswani in our panel. He's from the Bay Area. He's in charge of the tech for this particular hangout, and he'll be playing a video shortly. Meanwhile, about Shri Kashikarji, Kashikarji is from studied from IIT, and his story is just amazing. Very inspiring, I would say. I mean, even while he was an extremely high achiever from his college days, and doing his masters in chemical engineering, I believe, from IIT in Bombay. Um, he's actually, right from the college days, he wanted to actually get into his interest seems to be deeply rooted in things like Vedic wisdom, knowledge, spirituality, and to explore this world. And Kashikar ji was inspired by Shri Ravi Shankar ji, who's a well-renowned spiritual master, and who started Art of Living Foundation. And Kashigarji, after his college, joined Art of Living and has been, with Art of Living since, mid 90s or so. And we're very eager to hear from Kashigarji, um, just after the video. So can we play the video now?
Excellent. Yeah, the video, I'm just playing the video right now.
Thank you, Jitesh.
And darkness was.
Okay, we can't hear anything. I think we're having some technical difficulties here with the video. Um, I think we should. There are some technical difficulties in playing the video. I think Kashiji, it would be great if you can take over from this point on, and tell us more about this 5,000 years old Vedic wisdom. Sorry about this, guys.
Jai Gurudev. So, thank you, Shobha, for inviting me on this hangout. It's an absolute pleasure to be useful in as many ways as possible. Um, the word yoga itself comes from the Sanskrit root yuj, which means to unite or bring together. And yoga is all about this union, uniting the various aspects of what we are. As it was, I don't know if people were able to see the video. In the video, it was we were showcasing how the yoga itself comes about. Um, at the beginning, there was just knowledge, and that knowledge, Vedavyasa separates into 4 Vedas, and those 4 Vedas then get 4 Upavedas: Ayurveda, Sthapatya Veda, Dhanurveda, and Gandharva Veda. And then those Vedas then have Upangas or limbs, and then there are these subordinate limbs, out of which one is yoga. So if you look at it, the Vedic knowledge is vast, and the concepts of yoga actually date back to the Rig Vedic times, maybe 8 to 10,000 years ago. Who knows? So what really does yoga have for us today? If it's something so ancient, is it still relevant today? When we ask ourselves this question, and the way yoga is spreading in today's world, we come to the conclusion that yes, of course, it must be relevant if there are so many people practicing it today. So let's first talk of why yoga. Why is it so popular in today's world? Why are so many people talking yoga? If you search for yoga on Google, it throws up like millions of results. I would say that maybe 100 years back, most of our work was physical in nature. We used to be active, and there was not so much load on our mind, on the brain. But today that has turned around. The internet, mobile phones, so much so that most of our time we spend sitting in one place and staring at a screen like this, like we are right now. And that brings such a load on our that increases the load on our mind, and our muscles actually don't get used so much. So in a sense, there is an imbalance. Because of our lifestyle, we tend to use our body less and our mind more. And to address this imbalance is where yoga comes in. The asanas, what is classically known as yoga, or what is popularly known as yoga, I should say, comes from the need to address this physical well-being. But as we practice asanas, as we practice the postures, there is something more that happens. And that's what takes yoga a step forward from an exercise, because it helps us to connect with something much deeper, to the core of our existence. Sitting around sometimes, we would have wondered, who am I? What am I doing here? What is this universe? But often these questions are brushed under the carpet, swept under the carpet, saying, oh, I'm too busy. I can think of this once I retire. But really, this question has come to each and every one of us sometime in our life. That there is a depth to our life that is much more than just eating, sleeping, and that what gives rise to initiatives like the OVBI, where we feel, hey, I want to do something more than just my job, just what I'm doing right now. This too is yoga. So yoga is classified in many ways. There is Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. There is Hatha Yoga, the yoga of the asanas, that is popularly termed yoga. There is Karma Yoga or Seva, the kind of things that OBBI is doing, where you say, oh, let me give my effort to something which I'm passionate about. Not that I want anything in return, but I just want to do action for the action's sake. Then, of course, there is Raja Yoga, or the royal yoga, the royal path of yoga, where it's effortless, and that is the meditation. So for me, all these aspects of yoga, whether it's Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, or Hatha Yoga, or Raj Yoga, or Lay Yoga, sometimes just sitting and watching a sunset and the mind calms down and you feel such a sense of oneness, such a sense of peace. That too is yoga. So for me, yoga is not something that is just on the yoga mat. Yoga is much more off the yoga mat. In fact, if you just feel the effects of yoga while you're on the yoga mat, that's very limited. But the effect of yoga is really felt in the rest of the 23.5 hours. If you're doing half an hour of asanas, then the rest of the time is when you really feel the impact of your practice. So what really is yoga? And today, being also uh, uh, like a precursor to the International Yoga Day, which also happens to be Father's Day. Uh, and the father of yoga is considered to be Maharshi Patanjali, who wrote about yoga. And he says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is all about calming down these distortions in the mind, these modulations of the mind. We perceive something and yet we are not able to perceive it. It seems as if we are wearing colored glasses. We have our own preconceived notions, our way of interpreting, and sometimes this lands us in a soup. So really, yoga is all, according to Maharshi Patanjali, is about calming all these distortions, all these modulations, and being centered. And he says, Tada drushtu swarupe avasthanam. Then we are able to abide in the form of the seer. There is something that is experiencing this whole world. There is something that is making us do all these things. There is something that is making us work, uh, making us feel. For example, if I say this is my kurta, this is my shirt, then I'm separate from this shirt. In the same way, we say this is my body. So obviously that which is saying this is my body is separate from the body. The same way we say these are my thoughts. That which says these are my thoughts is separate from the thoughts. So what is it that is really experiencing this world? Getting in touch with that. That is yoga. And that happens with the practice. And so all the practices that we do, all the asanas, pranayam, meditation, seva, all these things are a means to achieve that state, to be established in the self. It seems as if we are a person defined by all the roles that we play. If someone asks one for an introduction, I would say, I was born to so and so parents, and I went here to college, and I did this, and I did that. If you look at all our introductions, it's all about what we did, but nothing really says who we are to address that being. So it seems as if we tend to live our life in a jumble of concepts, and that is what tires us down. And every time we are able to get in touch with the self, drop all these outer coverings, that's when we are able to be in yoga. For example, when we watch a sunset sitting on the seashore, suddenly all these concepts drop off and we experience the joy of just being. When we are doing some asana practice and we are so engaged in it, we feel so happy with it. Feels nice stretching the body, and then yoga happens. So all the things that we usually classify as yoga are basically a means to reach the state of yoga. And that's why I say it's not necessary to just go on the yoga mat. Of course, I'm not saying don't go on the yoga mat. No. Do your asanas regularly. But there is an experience of yoga that leads to an experience of yoga which is much more permanent, which is much more useful. And so how is it useful? What happens when I be in the self? That gives deep rest. For example, some of us might have noticed that when we go to sleep and then maybe in the morning you wake up and it feels as if the body has woken up. It's a little, it just wants to twist and turn, feels that it's got its share of rest, but the mind says, I still want to sleep. Someone did a research to find out how much is the ideal amount of time to sleep. And after a lot of research, talking to many people, they realized that the answer is 5 more minutes. It doesn't matter how much you're sleeping. You say, oh, 5 more minutes, that's the snooze button. Somehow our mind seems to need much more rest, and our body seems to be satisfied with much less, because that's the way we use it. And the practice of yoga helps to balance this out. Asanas help to give our muscles that much needed, our physical body that much needed stretching, engagement, and meditation is what gives the mind much needed rest. In fact, practice of meditation brings such deep rest. I would say sleep is rest without awareness, and meditation is rest with awareness. And that's the difference. And supposing I want to maybe dial a number, and if I'm not looking at the keypad, then I would probably dial a wrong number. But if I'm looking at the keypad and dialing, then chances are more that I'll dial the right number. So where there is awareness, then efficiency increases. And in the same way, when we are able to rest with awareness, it gives us much deeper rest. And that's why meditation can bring the much needed balance in today's life. And that's why yoga, the practice of yoga, asanas, pranayama, meditation, all these things are so much more relevant in today's life. That's the reason why yoga is so popular today. So when we start with an asana practice, it feels nice, the body gets stretched, and we say, oh, that's enough for me. And when we start practicing this, when we start practicing asanas, then we say, oh, there is something more, and that brings us to meditation. So in like Shobhaji was saying, I was in IIT Bombay. I was doing my master's in chemical engineering. I was DSEC of the hostel. I played soccer and was going trekking into the Western Ghats, wildlife club. I did lots of things, theater, Mudai, and somehow I felt there's much more to life than just this much. I wanted more. I wasn't satisfied with just that much. And then one day, one of my friends, Khurshid Batliwala, fondly known as Baba, he introduced me to this art of living and the Sudarshan Kriya and the meditation. And it just blew my life. I realized, oh, there is much more to life than just this much. And suddenly I was sleeping less because I was getting my relaxation through meditation, and I was more efficient throughout the day. My footballing improved, my reflexes improved. I was interacting with people more in a better manner. I was not reacting to people's statements, and because I was more aware, more relaxed, my relationships improved. And suddenly I realized that there is one thing that can make a difference to all aspects of me. I started learning more and more about it. And as I learned more, I said, hey, this is something worth sharing. And so for the last 20 years, I've been doing this as a passion. Usually people want to do something and have to do something else. I got lucky that what I wanted to do, I really got to do in a certain way. And that's how I trod on the path of yoga. And on this path, I've been traveling across the world, going to countries from Japan to US to Africa, Mongolia, all kinds of places. And if there's one thing that's common that humanity has, and that's the need for relaxation, the need for yoga. And that's why as I travel across the world, and Art of Living is today present in about 150 countries, more than 150 countries across the world, we find that this is so relevant to each and every one of our lives. So how can we make this a part of our life? That's usually the next question. Hey, I agree with whatever you say, but I'm so busy. So I usually say it's for busy people. It's like an investment in time. When I was in college, I really thought I needed 26 hours every day. I had so much to do and so less time to do it in. And when I started meditating, my sleep reduced from 8 hours to 6 hours, and I was still feeling fresh the whole day. And I realized that for an intelligent person, investing in time to get more time, that's common sense. I did half an hour of meditation, got 2 hours every day extra, and I realized this is a very good arithmetic. And that's why for busy people, I would say invest your time wisely. And investing in meditation is something that is worth the while. Now, so when is the best time to do it? The best time to do yoga is on an empty stomach. So before breakfast, before lunch, before dinner. And what do I do? If you're sitting on your chair, just do some stretches sitting on your chair. Just roll your shoulders, breathe in and stretch your hands. Do something, but with awareness, the breath and the body. When these three come together, that makes for an asana. That makes for a yoga. And then some simple breathing techniques. Even if you consciously breathe in and out a few times, that itself allows the mind to settle down. So many times you've heard this. When you're angry, take 10 deep breaths. So this connection between the breath and the mind, even though we know it, we seldom really use it. And the harnessing of the breath is something that is so unique to yoga. So when Patanjali talks about yoga, he says there are not just asana, pranayama, meditation. He says there are 8 limbs of yoga. Just like this body is there, and because of the limbs, I can do so many things. Because I have fingers, I can type. Because I have legs, I can walk. There are so many things, so many activities, so many avenues that open up to me because of the limbs. In the same way, the practice of yoga, there are 8 limbs, and each of these limbs enable us to get some activity, something. So the first limb is called yama. Yama means how do I live with society? How do I live with others? Now this is an art that we all pick up on our own. No one ever, we get taught science, physics, maths, but no one ever teaches us how do I live with my neighbor? How do I live in society? What are the social ethics? We pick them up on our own. It depends on our family. It depends on how we are brought up, our upbringing. But most of the time, we tend to pick it up on our own. Never is it taught formally as a subject. But Patanjali envisions yoga as starting from yama, to be a good social individual, to be responsible in society. How do I care for society? Society gives so much to us, and then unless I care for society, it's not going to sustain me. The second aspect is personal ethics or niyama. How do I live with myself? Maybe it's easy to live in a crowd, but it's much more difficult to live with oneself. How do I handle my own mind? How do I handle my emotions? So many emotions seems to come up, so many thoughts seem to come up, especially the thoughts we don't want seem to come up more. When I say I don't want to think of this person, that's what we tend to think of. So the second aspect of yoga, the second limb of yoga is handling our own self, personal ethics. How do I handle myself? The third comes asana or the postures, which is commonly thought of as yoga. In fact, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Maharishi Patanjali talks about yoga asana as thira sukham asana, that which is stable and comfortable. So it is not contorting the body into postures which is difficult for it to do. It's not about touching the nose to the knee, but it's about being in a stable and comfortable posture. And the practice of asana helps us to be more comfortable, be more stable in our system. It stabilizes at the level of the body, at the level of the mind, and at the level of the self. Then comes pranayama. Prana literally means life, the life force, that which keeps us alive. Have you ever wondered, when the body dies, it's all the same atoms, exactly the same, but something has gone away, something has changed. And that life force, that thing that makes this body tick, that prana. And ayama means dimension. So working in the dimension of this energy. It's like uh, this computer is running, but it's running on juice, on energy, on the battery. And when the battery is out of juice, then it stops running in. If it's not connected, it doesn't really run any. So making sure that your phone is charged, that your laptop is charged, that you're giving electricity, the right amount, the right voltage, modulated right, and then your machine keeps running properly. In the same way, when we are able to give in the right amount of prana in the right manner, in the right like uh, if your power socket is going fluctuating wildly, it's going to damage your equipment. In the same way, when we are able to address the breath, the rhythms of the breath, then we are able to address the health of this system. So pranayama, working with life force. Then comes pratyahara. Pratyahara means driving the senses inward, taking the senses inward. We constantly engage with the outer world, and it tires us down. We have to take so many decisions, so many things. We start the day afresh, and by the end of the day, we say, oh, I just need my sleep. So this ability of taking the senses inward is called pratyahara. Whether we like it or not, when we sleep, we definitely take our senses inward. But a conscious practice of this can help us to gain deep rest. Then comes dhyana. Dhi means buddhi, na means no. So literally, dhyana means allowing this intellect to rest. This intellect that's constantly analyzing. We're so engaged with all that we see, our work, relationships, people, situations, the news. We analyze so much goes into through these five senses. We hear something, we see something, the mind perceives it, and the intellect keeps analyzing. Any machine, when it's run to exhaustion, gets inefficient. The intellect, in the same way, when it's run to exhaustion, gets inefficient. That's why we all have our times when the mind is peaking. Dhyana enables us to relax the intellect very deeply. And that's why practice of dhyana is so important for intellectuals. Unfortunately, meditation, the way dhyana has been translated as meditation, it's got into a religious connotation. And that has made so many people feel threatened by these techniques. Unfortunately, this is not so. There is, and yet today, the world is waking up to the benefits of these techniques. You know, Shri usually says that just like we accept food from all over the world, eating pizza does not make me Italian. Just like we accept technology from all over the world, using an iPhone manufactured in China or Brazil doesn't make me of that country. So in the same way, we see knowledge, we can accept knowledge from all over the world. And that really is the core of yoga. That this knowledge is here for us to use and make a difference to our life. Dhyana enables us to relax this intellect so deeply, enables us to function more efficiently. So especially if you're in in a job that involves a lot of your intellect, dhyana, the tools of dhyana, very, very essential. And then comes, I missed one in the middle. After pratyahara is dharana. Dharana means attending to one thing. Now again, because our attention gets drawn in so many different directions, many of us suffer from this attention deficiency syndrome. We are not able to keep our attention focused on one thing for some time. The practices of dharana enable us to hold our mind onto a subject, onto something, either in external or internal. And practice of dharana so useful in today's life, where there are so many distractions. The mind gets pulled in so many ways because of so many sense objects. You hear so many things, you see there's so much to see, so much to hear, so much to smell. All the experiences call us in different directions. Practice of dharana helps to stabilize one and enables us to focus where we really want to. And then last comes samadhi. Sama means equanimous, balanced, harmonious, and dhi is the intellect. So allowing ourselves to be balanced, harmonious, to be able to live in this world without getting swayed by all that happens around us. It is like in a flowing river. If I can stand still, then I can help others to come back to the center. If I myself am flowing away, then if I myself am flowing away in the flood, then I can't really help anyone. But if I'm stable somewhere, I can throw a rope and help others to come to the shore. In the same way, when we are more centered, more stable, then we can make a big difference in this world. In this world, there are so many things that engage us. They are like hooks on us. Someone says something, we feel angry. Someone says something, we feel upset, sad, happy. It seems as if the whole world has all these hooks in us, and it pulls, and we experience certain emotion. We're not really living our own life. It's just at the mercy of so many people. So waking up and seeing that, hey, let me be the master of my own life. Let me be centered. Let me be stable. And then we can make a difference to others. So it's like the saying goes, charity doesn't happen with an empty bowl. So when we are centered, then we can help others. And this is the magnanimity of yoga. Yoga is not just about a few stretches here and there, but right from being a part of the world, engaging with the world, to engaging with oneself, physical well-being, to the prana, the life force that drives us, and then pratyahara, retrieving the senses, and dharana, focusing, dhyana, relaxing the intellect, and samadhi, being equanimous. This is the gamut of yoga. And that's why we can practice it throughout our day. It's not that we need to stop doing other things to practice yoga. It can be a very, very beautiful tool to do all that we need to do. Just like a mobile phone in today's world is a tool that we can do to accomplish so many things. It's much more than just communication. In the same way, the practices of yoga are tools that we can have to enhance our life. So how does one learn it? And that's what the Art of Living has been doing for the last 35 odd years. And that's why there are so many courses, there are so many ways, so many methods in which to experience this magnanimity of yoga. Great. Any questions?
That was amazing, actually. That was so mind-blowing. I mean, whenever we talk about yoga, you just think about twisting your limbs and arms and, well-being, and it's all seems to be very physical. People just relate immediately to the physicalities of it rather than the whole picture, different components. And it was really a great eye-opener for I think most of us, including myself. So people, you can start. We're getting questions already coming in. Meanwhile, people, if you have any questions, please post them on the chat, or and we can take them. I would like to pass the first question from Prashant. Prashant, do you want to take over and throw your question?
Um, Kashiji, thank you so much for explaining the 8 limbs in such a beautiful way. I'm a beginner in yoga, and I see people doing some amazing asanas. So how can I progress faster by in my yoga practice? Like, I'm a beginner, but all these people are doing such difficult asanas. How can I progress and, I would say, catch up maybe?
I would say that uh, it's a great inspiration when we see people being so flexible in the body and the ability to and that probably is what inspires many people to join yoga. So I wouldn't say, oh, that's all wrong, don't go there. No, it's a very great way to start, because that is the first step. But at the same time, we don't get caught up in this habit of trying to contort myself more. Yoga is uniting with oneself, not with what someone else is doing. So recognizing our own system and recognizing our own body and uniting with that, engaging all our muscle groups, doing all the asanas as much as possible. So I usually say, when doing the asanas, there are 3 golden rules to follow. First, do as much as you can. Don't try to overdo things. Second, don't become lazy. Oh, I can't overdo, let me just do Shavasana. That's also no good. And the third is smile on the face. If you can't enjoy doing your asanas, then you're probably barking up the wrong tree. For me, the depth of yoga, the grandeur of yoga is not in how much I can do, but how I can do things. And therefore, I would suggest a good starting place is Gurji's commentary, Shri's commentaries on the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, where he talks about all these aspects which I just covered in a very short manner. You can go through the whole series of talks, or if you like reading, then there is a book also, and you can see how much you can integrate in your life. And when you can see that there is yoga happening everywhere, whether it's when you're working on your keyboard at office, then you feel so much more gratified. It feels so much more nicer. Otherwise, we end up feeling, oh, I want to do this, but I have to do this. And that brings up such a dichotomy in life, such a struggle in life, that I feel is really not worth its while. So, so I would say, and that's what we do in the art of living. We see there are various techniques that we can use to um, temper our relationship with the world, handle our own mind. And so all this for me is yoga. When we recognize this, then we see that to become an expert practitioner in yoga, I don't need to really bring my nose to the knee or take my leg above my head. No, that's, for me, that is not the depth of yoga. So it's great, do asanas, do as much as you can, but know that when you can address all the limbs of yoga, then you're looking at the totality of yoga. Otherwise, it's like I do if I'm going to the gym, for example, and I lift weights with just my right hand and ignore the rest of my body. There's no point my right hand developing thick muscles and the rest of my body becoming so weak. So for me, address all the limbs of yoga, and that's the way to go ahead. Does that answer your question, Prashant?
Yes, Kashi, thank you so much.
So Kashi, thank you Prashant for that, and thank you Kashiji. There's one more question. I know this keeps popping up. Every single day. I myself work in a corporate sort of investment bank, area. And I remember there's one episode when I went to one of the companies in the HR and I wanted to have, lunchtime meditation. When I went to the HR, I said, can we have a meditation session? And basically they said they'll come back. And what they said was, actually, the traders in our floor need stress. Without stress, we won't make money. So we want them to be stressed. So therefore, I don't think it's a great idea for traders to go and meditate. How do I get this message through to them?
There's one thing I would like to say here. If stress was the mother of creativity, then people in Iraq or Syria or Afghanistan or places where there are a lot of stress, they must be most creative. But it doesn't seem to be so. In fact, throughout history, creativity has always dawned when there has been peace. The Renaissance in Europe happened when there was plenty. India had its golden period when everything was in abundance. So for me, whether it's artistic creativity, technical creativity, or creativity in any sense, this ability to intuit has always gone with peace. The more peaceful we are, the more the mind is able to make connections. In fact, the more stressed we are, we make mistakes and then later on we regret it. Oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. So for me, why people associate stress with performance is because that's the only way that it seems to happen. There are two ways to drive. One is motivation and the other is inspiration. With motivation, when you have the carrot in front of the horse, the moment you take the carrot away, the horse is going to stop. But if there's inspiration, if there's something coming from within, then it lasts much longer. So for me, this theory that stress increases performance, I feel is completely out of touch with reality. In fact, to shoot an arrow forward, we need to pull the arrow back first. And the more efficient we are, the better we are at pulling the arrow back, the more you can shoot it in front. In the same way, the more rest and relaxation, the more the efficiency. And for me, that is why the techniques of yoga can, though they have come from India, it's so amazing that India has such a wealth to offer to the world, and this wealth is something that can come with experience only. So the moment someone experiences meditation and then becomes more efficient, then I would say that really is the key. One thing also that I would like to add here is that a lot of times with a lot of stress comes a lot of burnout, and addressing that can increase the longevity of your workers. So that can make them more focused for a longer time.
That's brilliant, actually. It feels, I quite like the difference between motivation and inspiration. That's a great takeaway, I guess, for all of us. Purnima, would you like to come in with your questions?
Shobha, thank you.
Go for it, Purnima.
Yeah, Namaste Kashiji. Thanks a lot for the talk. It was, as Shobha said, it was really mind-blowing. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, I'm really happy about the fact that there's more and more yoga that's coming up in the West. More and more people are taking up to it. On the other hand, when I go to these yoga studios, they keep saying Kundalini yoga or power yoga and things like that. So I just wanted to ask you, in your opinion, do you think that this is distorted in the West, or is it harmful if I practice something like that?
I would say that all said and done, finally, some form of yoga gets spread somewhere. There must be some good in it, for sure. At the same time, I would suggest that if you just stick to the basic guidelines of doing as much as you can, not being lazy, and smiling through the whole process, then if it's giving you joy and if it's not putting too much stress on what you're doing, yes, go ahead with it. At the same time, I would say that for yoga, um, when we learn swimming or when we learn anything, or when we go to school, we learn from a teacher. And there are so many different colleges, so many different schools, so many teachers. And finally, you know whom you need to learn from. It's, I mean, you can take opinions of your friends, peers, and then you have your own interests. You see where your interest lies, then you choose your path. At the same time, I would say that on the path of yoga, having a guru is very important. A teacher, somewhere, someone who can correct you and say. So in that sense, I can open a book and say, oh, I know everything, I'll do this, I'll do that. But unless there's some feedback where someone can say, hey, look, watch out, this is not correct, this is how you should do it, this is how you shouldn't do it. So the nuances of yoga come from a teacher, from a guru. And that's why having one on our path is very important. And it's important to have one. You can respect everyone, but have one guru, one that you follow. Otherwise, it's like digging holes in 10 different places on your farm and trying to search for water. It makes sense to dig at one place. In the same way, uh, having a guru in life, that helps us to go much further on the path of yoga. Having a guru doesn't mean that, oh, I'm surrendering my independence. It just means that that it allows us an access to an expert advice. It allows us an access to someone who can guide us along the path. When something as mundane as driving a car, we need to learn from someone. To be able to explore the self, to be able to live life, definitely needs a guru. And so I would say, see what your heart says. Search for something that makes a difference to you and then follow that. And there is so much to do in yoga. But keep to the basic 3 guidelines, which is do as much as you can, don't overdo things, don't become lazy, and smile. As long as you follow these 3, I think you shouldn't be able to go wrong. And yet, in some cases like Kundalini and some of these things, it's better to have someone who knows what they're doing. And there are things which are really powerful. It's better to be safe rather than sorry.
Thank you, Kashiji. That was again another amazing insight to things. Thank you, Purnima, for that. Are you happy with the answer? I think I've lost her volume. There's one, probably we just have time for one question right now. And this keeps coming, and there's a lot of, some places have a lot of controversies and stuff about yoga and religion, what impact, what relationship this has, and how can we separate the well-being part out from, not any offending any religion for that matter. It would be great to throw some light on that.
Sure. For me, religion is a very personal thing. It's my personal belief. And in that sense, I feel confident about my religion that whatever I do or whatever someone says to me is not going to turn me off my personal beliefs. They're that strong. So in that sense, any practice I do, anything that I do is not going to change my personal belief. So for me, from one point of view, my belief in my religion is strong enough that nothing can really shake it. So just a few postures here or there, or just closing the eyes and relaxing, that's not going to change my belief. And second aspect really is that Maharishi Patanjali himself, in all his scripture, never really talks about the need for uh, any divinity or godhead for the practice of yoga, and in that sense, the asanas, all these things can definitely be done by anyone without contradicting any religious belief. That's as far as I can say. Some things that one thing that I would say is like the word Om, for example. It's a vibration, and it's like the signature of yoga. All the rishis, they said, oh, that's their signature. So just like we don't violate copyright, or like if someone has invented something, we definitely give credit to them and then use it. So in the same way, for me, uh, these practices of yoga are something that are not um, that are not against any religion. They don't tell you, like for the practice of asana, no one will tell you stop believing in what you believe. No. You can have all your personal beliefs and yet practice yoga. Like I said earlier, um, we accept technology from all over the world. We accept cuisine. We accept clothes from all over the world. And we accept chocolate from all over the world. And why not accept knowledge from all over the world, especially that which can make us so much more healthier, to be able to live such a fuller life. And that's why when someone asked Shri, why did you base your technique on the breath? He said, because everyone breathes the same air. There is no Hindu breath, there's no Christian breath, there's no Islamic breath. The breath is something that unites us. There is something that is common in each one of us. Holding on to that which is common, that is yoga.
Thank you so much. I feel so secure. I feel so secular that, in terms of yoga, breathing exercises, it's the most secular thing, extremely, brilliant for well-being. And this has been an amazing knowledge session. It covered so many different aspects. And I think that I have this feeling that we will need more sessions with you, Kashiji, and really, really grateful to you despite your very hectic schedule to be able to make it. Actually, Kashiji is on a course, he's on a teaching course. He still made time to do this for us. Very, very grateful to you. So thank you very much for joining this hangout, and we will have more such hangouts. Please, if you're interested to find out more on Overseas Volunteer for Better India, please go to the website overseasvbi.org to find out about the recent activities. And all we're looking for is time, talent, and money. These are the three components that OVBI is very happily going to embrace. And I would also especially like to thank Jitesh Vaswani, who's the technical coordinator. He's done a brilliant job, actually, hosting, managing, running around. He's one of our star volunteers. Really, thank you so much, Jitesh, for helping us from the West Coast. And Kashi,
Thank you everyone for.
join us again. Thank you so much on that note. Have a great evening, and Jai Gurudev, all of you. All right.